Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the From Desk to Dynasty podcast. As always, I'm your host, Owen, here with a very exciting guest today, Jordan. Super excited to sit down with him and understand his experiences. I'll gather all of his insights and also dig into what he's got going on right now with his business. So, without further ado, Jordan, I'll pass it across to yourself for a quick introduction.
Hey Owen, yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Jordan Arp. I'm a co-founder here at Jombine, and we are a recruiting firm that is disrupting the recruiting space, giving companies a better way to hire based off of culture fit. So we built a culture-first recruiting platform that really is a data-driven platform to assist companies on making better hiring decisions and finding candidates that don't just check the technical boxes of a resume, but truly fit with the culture that they have at the company. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
For sure. No, definitely some super interesting and exciting stuff going on over on your end, Jordan.
Yeah.
But, could you maybe just to kick us off, share a little bit about your journey into recruitment, what drew you to the industry, and everything around that?
Yeah, sure. I think like a lot of recruiters, it's not something that that you said you were going to want to do when you were a
Yep.
kid or anything like that. I actually spent a long time in the consumer packaged goods industry. I worked for a distributor and managed a large sales staff. So we had a sales staff of about 30 people, and it was throughout managing that sales staff and constant turnover, hiring, firing, some people that fit, some people that didn't, that, we figured out that like there's got to be a better way to recruit people. And we would work with tons of different recruiters and, with varying degrees of success. Some are better, some are worse. But the big theme that kind of came through with all of them was that they didn't understand the culture of the company that I was working at. They were just giving me resumes. They weren't really understanding my needs and my problems. They were just hoping for a quick buck. They were taking a lot of shortcuts. And so we looked for a lot of different recruiters out there to, basically be the company that eventually ended up building, and we could not find it. So my co-founder and I, we decided to go out and build this company, build this platform, build portals, because we just figured that if we're having the same problem, there's got to be a lot of other companies out there that are experiencing the same thing. And, our premise and our thesis actually holds up to be very true. So that was kind of how I got into it. It's really as an outsider, definitely not a 20, 30-year industry vet by any means. But I kind of think that's what this industry needs, is someone to come in and from the outside and really shake it up, because it's pretty archaic, it's pretty predictable. It can be very boring if you don't do it, in a new way. So that's kind of the flair that we're helping bring.
I love it. And yeah, definitely an industry that is, begging for innovation and new systems and new processes and just new ways of doing things. Obviously, from the sounds of it, you're adopting, a more consulting first approach, where most firms are, quick buck, bums on seats, just going for pure transaction volume. Could you maybe, and you touched upon it a little bit there, but could you maybe share that specific turning point or experience that validated that approach for you?
Yeah, there's like you said, there's lots of button seats recruiters out there. There's lots of people that if you have high volume, you're a staffing agency, you have a bunch of temp workers. Like there's a time and a place for that for sure. That's not what we do. We don't take any of those kind of clients. We really work with clients that are looking for a competitive advantage, that are looking for candidates to come in and to do something that they haven't had done before, right? To bring new ideas, to bring a fresh approach. And by us being a true consultant, we can work with the clients so much more on a deeper level than, just give me the job description and I'll go find you somebody, right? It's like, no, like we're gonna spend some time, we're gonna spend an hour plus and get to know each other. And I'm gonna come and have that consultant lens. I'm going to challenge some of your current ways of thinking. I'm going to challenge on things that you've done in the past and why you did them that way. If you're looking for a, hey, here's a job description, go get it, we're not that type of company, and we don't work with clients that are just looking for that type of company. So we're unique in that space. That's why we're not right for everybody, and that's totally fine. But the clients that we do work with that really appreciate it, they realize that that time they spend up front to take me that hour, 90 minutes to have that open, honest conversation saves them so much time later because I'm giving them really highly vetted and qualified candidates that really hit the mark versus the traditional route is, oh, here's two or three candidates, give me some initial feedback, and now I'll go back to the drawing board and completely change up my approach because we didn't talk about all this stuff ahead of time. The other thing we've seen is really successful with the consultant style approach is that we have a lot better acceptance rates. We know when a candidate gets to the finish line that they're happy, they're going to be accepting the offer versus traditional recruiting. You have a lot of people drop off at the last minute because the comp package isn't right, benefits weren't there, or maybe they just had other offers they were shopping, or maybe they're trying to stay at their own company. We find out all those things in the vetting process, both on the candidate and the client side, and that's why our time to hire is not as fast as everybody else. Like time to hire is one of those metrics that gets bashed into the ground, and people will say, "Oh, look how fast I am." Again, if it's a button seat, temp hire, contract hire, like sure that makes sense. For most of these other ones, like that's a bad thing if you are actually saying how fast you are because you're not doing your due diligence in the market, and you're not finding the best person possible if you're just trying to find the fastest person.
100%. I think definitely a lot of cracks in the industry. As you said, there's a time and a place for it. Um, but yeah, a lot of the times that's not what we should be, looking for and what should be sought after for sure. You touched upon it, or you touched upon a reference very, very briefly there about crossing the finish line. I know we spoke a little bit prior. Could you maybe just explain Jombine meaning behind the name and sort of how you came up with that?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I were both college athletes, and we're still pretty big into sports. My wife and I are very very sporty. That's just what I do. Like I don't like traditional workouts. I'm playing basketball and tennis and all the things that entertain my brain rather than just running in a circle or lifting or whatever. But we really looked at the NFL Combine, the scouting combine, and they do this in soccer as well. But they bring all of the athletes in and they test them on hundreds of different aspects, right? How fast can they run? How quick can they jump? How much can they bench press? Like all these cognitive abilities as well. And only after they have this true representation of who they are and what they're bringing to the table would they potentially draft them and bring them to their team. Just because you can run the fastest, 100-yard dash or bench press the most, at the combine, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good fit for what you're looking for at your team, right? If you're an owner of an NFL team and you're looking at it objectively, you're saying, hey, this isn't the missing puzzle piece that I need. I already have really strong people in this and that area, but this is what I need to really unlock that growth. And we loved that kind of mentality because it just shows you that like just because you're the top, player in this area for this company doesn't mean you're going to thrive at this other company. So like what is that missing puzzle piece? And so we bring that same aspect to Jombine. So our words are our name is the word job and combine put together. So just like they're doing for professional sports place, like we're doing for the workplace, and everything we do kind of has a sports flair to it. But that's kind of why we went that way because athletics is what we know. We love the competitive kind of nature of it, and we love how translatable that skill is because again, when people are hiring, they're looking for just the top person in this space or the top person at this other company. But when you plug and play, it doesn't always work out that way. And we always ask why. And this is the big piece of the reasoning behind it, which is ultimately what we did to design our entire platform around that.
100%. And I think plug and play is a great way to look at it. I mean, do you have any sort of, I guess, transformative client success stories or anything along the lines of that, obviously without giving away names, that you think would have maybe been impossible under the more traditional recruitment model?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've have many examples here, but one that sticks out is that we looked for a VP of people for restoration company. And unlike a lot of jobs where they go, oh, I need somebody with restoration experience. They got to have 20 years industry experience. It's a pretty big company. It's a really high level role. They got to know exactly what we're talking about and the ins and outs of the industry, right? And that's what most recruiters probably would have went and found. When we did our consultant intake with them, we kind of found that like, hey, they tried a lot of the traditional routes, and it has not really produced the results that they were looking for. And so we kind of challenged them and said, what if we brought you someone from a different industry, maybe an adjacent industry, but it's not what is tried and true for what you've done all the time. Maybe this fresh perspective can really be an advantage to your workplace, because they're not beaten down by this industry, first of all, but they see it from a fresh lens, and they come with new ideas. And only because we had got to know other people around this space and really industry players in there, did we have the confidence to say, hey, you should probably look at this in a different way, where another recruiter would have been probably really reluctant to say, hey, here's someone from a completely different industry. Aren't they going to be the one to turn things around at this company that you need turned around right now? And we could only do that because we saw people on the team, we saw where their gaps were. They were actually very strong in some areas that on the HR side that this person did not need to be. So, a traditional VP of people would have needed to have a lot of those skills, but I was like, hey, you already have them on the bus. You need more of that motivator, that leader, the person that's going to be able to sell to the C-suite and the reason of why they're going to implement these changes versus just being that tactile block and tackle person that's going to get things done on the team. You already have that person in place. So it was only through our evaluation pieces and our approach of going about it were they able to really get behind that and have a confident decision. And of course, once they met this person and talked to them and had the conversations, they were like, this person is amazing. But if we wouldn't have, framed it properly, we just sent them over a resume and say, hey, this guy's good for 2 sentences. And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? Right? Like, are you listening at all? And the fact is we're actually challenging a lot as well as listening.
100%, 100%. No, I love it. I think what you're doing goes beyond, that transactional relationship. You're really building partnerships, long-term relationships where, you're coming in that's acting as more of an extension of their team as opposed to, a yes man who's in there potentially just chasing a commission. But
Yeah.
no, super, super interesting to hear around, your company formation of it, thought process behind it. Um, Obviously, in those early days, doing things a little bit differently than is the norm within recruitment. Could you maybe walk me through some like the original days of the firm? What was the original vision? How has that sort of evolved over time?
Yeah. It's always evolving. That's the beautiful part of a startup, right? I have a really great partner, Topher Deutschman. Shout out Topher. He's our CEO. He's amazing. He's had multiple businesses before, so I compliment him well. But I'm very fortunate to work with him because he's been seasoned. He's seen a lot of stuff before, so he's really good about give and take. We have lots of different ideas. But the original vision of the firm was to disrupt the recruiting space and to give people a better way to hire. And I think that still really, really does hold true. But it's more evolved into how do we not just disrupt the space, but also create more recruiters that are entrepreneurs and can build their own businesses themselves, right? A lot of people may be stuck at a big agency or an internal recruiter, and they've always thought about going out and doing this themselves. But there's just a lot of uh, hoops to jump through. There's a lot of things that they don't want to do, right? There's the branding, the setting up of the LLC, the content creation, the billing, the back office. Like these are kind of monotonous, boring things of the business that hold them back from making the jump. And we want to solve those things for them so they can become really, really good at being a recruiter, but also bringing in business, but using our platform because we know that this is a tried and true way to evaluate people in a better light and giving them the competitive advantage to say, hey, this is why I'm different. I'm not just another recruiter doing the same old thing that everybody else does and racing to the bottom on price. So we are still disrupting the space, but we're also trying to bring a lot more recruiters under the Jombine umbrella. And nothing would be happier to say, hey, that we helped mint 1,000 new entrepreneurs in this process, because yes, they work for Jombine, and we give them the support, but they're their own business owners, so to speak, right? So that's, I think, just as worthy of a mission as truly just giving people better ways to hire. So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach where we get to do both at the same time, and they're rewarding for different ways.
100%, 100%. No, definitely very rewarding seeing people come in, blossom, then even if they have to go separate ways, which could be to the detriment of the company losing a great performer, there's still that ounce of you that says, yeah, super proud of the work that's been done there. In those early days, obviously you touched upon it yourself, your process can take a little bit longer, which isn't always a bad thing. I think sort of time to hire can be a vanity metric, but in terms of convincing people of that methodology and having maybe more challenging conversations where you are sort of quizzing the client and maybe asking the odd uncomfortable question, what were the sort of biggest challenges that the business faced in those early days?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, there's still challenges, right? I mean, it's a startup. That's just the name of the game. But I think a lot of it at the beginning was just finding the right type of client that valued our competitive advantage, right? Like valued what we do, like valued that we're not just another recruiter. And a lot of them, once we started having those conversations and those really deep dive intake calls, asking them questions that no recruiter had ever asked them before, they either went one way going like, whoa, this is like too personal and too in depth, and like this is not who I work with as a recruiter. And that's fine. We probably don't work with most of those people. We part ways at that point. But the other ones, they go, wow, this person's truly getting to know my business inside out. They're investing in me. They're not just looking for a one-off hire. They're looking to try to get to know me for the long term and build a long-term relationship together. Those are the type of clients that we really value and that we want to work with. But getting in front of those and getting our messaging out there is tough because there's 20,000 recruitment agencies in the United States alone, and they're all using AI. They're all using outreach campaigns and sequencers and automation. And so these people that are decision makers are just getting bombarded with pitch slap after pitch slap, terrible messaging. Hey, do you have a job for me now? Like, hey, I'm cheaper than everybody else. I'm faster than everybody else. So like, to get through that and cut through the noise is extremely tough. And so that's still a challenge that we face today, is just getting in front of the right type of clients that really value what we do, versus we have lots of them that reach out and say, hey, can you hire this person for a very cheap rate? And we go, no, like there's a lot of other recruiters out there for that. Like that's doing a disservice to what we've built and what we are truly doing. So I think those are the big ones, and then just the normal entrepreneur grind. I mean, what to focus on. There's so many things on the to-do list. What gets your attention and moves to the top versus like, what do you say? Hey, this was cool to do, but like we're not doing a fundraise. So like, why are we working on a pitch deck? Like, why are we wasting time on these kind of things if we're just trying to keep bootstrapping it, right? Like, just so many different decisions that need to be made all the time as an entrepreneur and as a startup, that you can be led astray and do something really great and make a great project and then go, well, what is the application of this? Like, how is this really moving the business forward? So those are things that we still struggle with all the time, because we're a platform and we're an agency at the same time. And so it's like, which one are we focusing on at this moment, and how do we balance them to make sure that they interplay the way we want them to?
100%. I think it's the true founder characteristic of just wearing 10 hats when you can really only wear a couple.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely sympathize with you on that one there. I think you touched upon an interesting point, and you know big challenge in terms of finding the clients, not only just clients, but the clients that you actually want to work with. So I guess, say, looking ahead over the next 12 to 24 months, what are the biggest growth priorities for the business, and how do you really plan on getting in front of those clients that are going to be well within your ICP.
Yeah. I mean, we've been lucky to get in front of a good amount of those, and we're doing just great work for them. So we're getting a lot of referrals. So that's been nice. But referrals will only take you so far, right? So, it's a lot of just doing stuff that is tried and true. I mean, cold calling, honestly, will work if you can talk to the person. Like, if you're doing cold email and just blasting them and hoping, on step 10 they're going to respond, like they're not going to, right? And it's like having instant feedback on a cold call, even if it's a hell no, like that's great, right? Let's talk through the reasons of why and keep refining our messaging and keep refining our ICP down, because we want to get in front of those right ones for sure. I think just awareness. I mean, going on podcasts like this and going do other publications, just getting out there and finding those type of companies when they hear something like this to go, that's the type of recruiter that we're looking for. We're not looking for another transactional person. We're looking for a relationship builder that really is doing something differently, because again, if you do the same thing as all the other recruiters out there, you're going to get very predictable results. And I'm not bashing all recruiters by any means. There's some that doing a fantastic job of what they're doing. But unfortunately, 80, 90+% of the industry does a pretty poor job, and they take a lot of shortcuts, and they're the ones that give the whole industry a really, really bad name. And so, when talking about some of those difficulties, like you said, like that's a big one, is just selling that we're not the normal recruiter, right? That, yeah, there is a lot of bad ones out there, and like just calling a spade and owning it. Like, hey, recruitment a lot of times does suck, right? Like it's not the right move for everybody. And if you use a bad firm or a bad, agency, it can make things worse, like no doubt. But when you find the right ones, it is almost always better than a internal recruiter. And we can do things that they can never do. From the headhunting side, from the just talent pool management side, and it's one of those things that we still are trying to figure out as a startup, right? Like we are having some good wins for sure, but we know that we're just in our infancy days of where we really want to take this thing, and we're building this thing for the long term. So we're not building it to sell or anything like that. Like we're building this to truly give recruiting a better way to happen at companies, and that's going to be a long-term mission. And we know that it's not going to happen overnight.
100%. And you sort of touched upon something a little bit there, um, in terms of outreach and people leveraging AI to, automate systems, do all this type of thing. Is it something that you've been looking towards, or you're implementing right now, like AI and all of that type of stuff, or not so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to learn AI, otherwise you're going to be left behind. It's more of how you implement AI that will keep you as that true humans evaluating humans for humans box, versus just trying to automate everything and trying to hope that you're going to get rich quick by not having to do any work, right? AI is one of those things that is incredible. I mean, we've built AI agents. There's lots of great use cases for it, both for researching a company before going on a call with them, finding your competitors, seeing what they're doing, what's your competitive advantage compared to them, how do you position yourself in the market, what kind of terminology do you use to give yourself that kind of positioning. Those are all things that AI is great at, right? Writing mass outreach campaigns that highly personalized, that say, hey Owen, here's what you did in seventh grade and you were this, and it's like just gets like super creepy super fast. Like that's not a good application for it. And I see a lot of people do that, thinking that, oh, they're gonna think I, researched them so well if I give them all these personal tidbits. But anybody that has half a brain knows that this is AI, right?
Yeah.
So can you make the message relevant? Can you talk to their pain points? Can you find them at a time that is right for them to start making a decision when they are feeling those pain points? Those are the things that really will separate us in the long term. But we teach our agents how to use AI, especially for research, for competitors. I think, the copy is decent if you can feed it your own copy first. If you're just giving it a prompt and then saying, hey, write this entire copy, it's going to be pretty bad still. I have no doubt that it will get better and better, and we'll see how that changes over time. But there is ethical uses of AI and the right way to do it, and then there's what a lot of other people try to do, and it's just blast it through everything. I'm sure you've seen it. Every product has, powered by AI now, and sometimes that's true. A lot of times it's the same product that it was before, and it has an AI sticker slapped on it, and they charging twice the price now. So we definitely don't market ourselves as the AI recruiter, anything like that. Like nothing on our website says, hey, we're using AI to screen every application and every resume and stuff like that, because we don't do that. But there are a lot of companies that that's their whole thing, and they just want to sell you a software as a service. If you're looking for a shortcut and you're an internal recruiter that just wants to use something like that might work for you. If you're looking for a complete done for you service from a really reputable company that's really, really good at evaluating candidates, that's what Jombine is. And I don't think that you can have AI ever do that true evaluation piece. Having that human, interview, and then having a platform like we do that gives us tons of information and data to help make decisions, that's going to be way more powerful than any AI tool that we've seen.
I'd agree. I think it's not at the stage yet where, it can be things can be fully automated across the board 360. I think there's a place for it, but it needs to be blended nicely and balanced with also a good level of human interaction. I mean, you're in the relationship business, so yeah, why remove the driving force of relationships out of that? But no, interesting to hear your take. In terms of the business right now, if there was one thing, if you could fix it or improve it, that would have the biggest impact on your firm's growth, what do you think that would be?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of things that we talk about, for sure. But I think the biggest thing for us is just uh, getting more agents that share our vision, that want to come work for Jombine, right? There's uh, there's a lot of people that apply for our positions every time that they're open, and frankly, we get 600, 700 sometimes people apply, and we take our time to weed through them and find the really good ones. But at the end of the day, some of them are looking for, like, they're looking at our platform as like a competitive advantage because nobody else has anything like this out there, right? And so they think it's maybe an easy button to say, hey, look at, I'm a John Bine powered agent, and so now like I'm in the special box. And though that is true, we want to hire more agents that truly share our vision of disrupting this space and giving companies that consultative approach. Like we're not just trying to redo the same thing and slap a John Bine label on it, right? So if we could do one thing, it would be really just going all in on finding better agents to really come in and share our beliefs, right? We have some really good ones on staff already. But if we could, 5x, 10x that and really start having all these other ambassadors out there, that showcase John Bine in the way that we want to, I think that's what's going to really lead to incremental growth over the next couple of years. And that's something that is a priority for us. But there's just like we talked about before, there's so many other things going on with the entrepreneurial journey that sometimes we maybe don't focus on that as much as we should. But I know that this year, Topher and I, it's a big focus point for us that we want to carve out the time and reprioritize that list to make it where this is a top priority for us.
100%. I would agree. You're just getting pulled in so many different directions. I know the heads of founders as well. There's ideas flying around, and you're always, trying to do something, always busy. That being said, are there any strategies or ideas that you have had in maybe the last year or since the formation of Combine, sorry, Jombine, that you have found interesting, even if maybe they didn't play out the way that you hoped?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think a big thing that I think I understand your question, just like things out, like even outside the business that you're talking about, or
Yeah, just any ideas, strategies you've tried that have maybe just not quite went how you thought,
yeah, I
good or
mean,
bad.
yeah, I think one thing that was really big for, didn't quite go how I thought, but in a good way, was like how we have our agents focus on so much stuff like outside of work, right? Like recruiting is this space that uh, is so depth, like so deep, but also can monopolize so much of your time, and you're expected to kind of always be on and always be, responding to emails quickly and things like that, right? And yes, we want higher levels of customer service, but we also want people to be the best version of themselves, right? So like, we encourage all our agents to go for a 30-minute walk outside each day without their phone, right? Like no podcasts, no phone, like go out and take a walk, hopefully go to a park, something like that, and just be in nature, be by yourself, have the space to have creative thoughts happen. Like this world that we have nowadays, like doesn't give you enough room for boredom, and boredom is often a time where some of the best ideas happen. But with a million podcasts just like this one, there's a million things out there. I got a ton on my list all the time too, right? It's easy to think like, hey, I should just use this time to fire off another book on tape or another podcast or something like that, right? But to be able to actually go out and get your heart rate going, get some steps, move around, get some sunlight, and not have anything to listen to, I think is a very powerful thing to go about it. And we've had some more agents that do that, and they go, I haven't like ever done this in a long time, right? And like, hey, I'm having way better conversations with my significant other because we don't take our phones to the park anymore either, and we're just having like real conversations. And that's bled into how happy they are coming back to work, right? How much more motivated they are to get back in, and it's not just feels like they've been grinding the whole time. They've actually had like a true break at that point. So that's been very good. And then another thing that we kind of encourage is, hey, at the end of the day, like write down your 3 wins for the day, because you might not think you have them, but every day I guarantee that you do. And if you can write down your 3 wins for the day every single day, you start seeing that pile up, and you start seeing, oh my gosh, like after a week I got 21 wins that I wrote down, right? After a month I have hundreds of wins that I've written down. And it's just this ball that continues to build, and you can see the momentum building when you get people on our staff that do this regularly. They have a better attitude, they have more motivation, they have more fire in the belly, so to speak. And it's something that we've seen have a really positive impact for everybody that does it. And of course, we can't, require them to do it. We can't tell them, hey, show me to me. But I think they get it pretty quick. And like, these are like really like my whole thing with these is like, it's very low fidelity to get people to start doing these things. It
Yeah,
is not this giant change in their life. It is this small change that can make really, really big benefits to them in so many other aspects. And that's who we want to be known for. We don't want to be the company that all we do is ever talk about work and grind, and hustle culture. Like there's all elements to that for sure. But like as we said before, we're trying to build lots of different entrepreneurs and agents. And like, yes, we have this amazing platform and these portals, and so that's a competitive advantage that give them a reason to stay. But like, what are we doing outside of that? Like, we're trying to make them better people. We're trying to give them a better work experience and interact with people that they like working with. That will get them to stay long term, even over another company that might be dangling more dollars in their face or something else that we can't, match. But if they're getting that personal development and those relationships that change other aspects of their life on a profound level, that's what's going to want to make them stay for the long term. So that's the kind of company that we want to be. That's why we focus on some of those areas that a traditional company probably would never talk about.
100%. I think it's an amazing philosophy. Something I think in a world where, social media, phones, we've never been so connected. It's almost like we've also never been so disconnected. Whereas, people are going home at night and they're maybe not conversing with their other half like they were previously. They're just stuck, face glued to their phone. They can't leave the house without throwing in headphones or getting some form of dopamine hit. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think you're definitely onto something there. I would agree. Even something as small as writing down your wins and celebrating those small wins. Momentum exists; these compound over time.
Mhm.
And before you know it, as you say, you've got 200 wins in a book, and you're off
Yeah.
to the races.
Yeah,
100%.
it's so important because this industry, I mean, it's tough. It can beat you down. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things that don't go your way. There's lots of surprises that you thought you had something to the finish line and it didn't. So it's one of those feast fam. It's like one month you feel like you're a king of the world, and then The next month you're like, hey, no one's answering a call. I can't find a job to save my life, right? Like, so it's really important to celebrate those wins and to know that hey, you are moving forward each day. You're getting better, um, and sometimes you forget that if you don't have a track record to go back and reference there.
100%. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, Justin, sorry, Jordan, I'm so sorry. Jordan, if you could, test out one idea in the business with absolutely no risk whatsoever, what would you love to try?
Sort of a loaded question because I think AI comes back to that at that point. I know there's like a lot of really good automations that can happen with Clay and some of these outreach kind of things. Like I said, I've never seen one that I liked enough to ever say yes to, right?
Yeah,
And I think it really blows through your ICP and your customer, your prospect lists because you can do it at such scale, and that's a cool thing. But that also means like you can screw your name up at really big scale as well. So the risk reward is not where I would like to see it to be. But if your question is, hey, there's no risk to the business, right? Then it would be maybe trying out some of these automated things, both on the more on the candidate side than the client side,
yeah,
because I think that there's a lot more advantage to be happened with candidates on that. But again, I'd be interested to try it out on some of the client stuff too, to just get our name out there and to be able to start those conversations. I still, even if AI was good enough to, like I've been people pitch me, hey, there's an AI dialer. They'll talk to them. They'll set meetings for you, like all this stuff. I'm like, if even if that was true, I would never want to implement that because I think you're missing the human aspect of this entire industry. And so that wouldn't really be what I'd go with. But if we could start having that intro conversation and set a meeting where we could truly have that conversation, that could be very interesting to do that because, we know we have a great product. We know that we have really, really high ratings for people that use it. But how do we get in front of those people that are true clients that will value us for what we are doing? That's the tough part because, again, 20,000 recruiters in the United States just alone, it's very, very noisy out there. And people are getting bombarded, they're getting message fatigue. And so if there could be a better way to do that, I'd be very interested to try that out.
for sure. I think yeah, with the AI voice agents, you're leading yourself down a little bit of a rabbit hole to end up on a LinkedIn post getting slammed potentially
Sure.
with some of them right now. But yeah, interesting to hear that. But yeah, Jordan, just sort of wrapping up to a little bit of a close here. As your journey as a founder continues and all the way through it, what do you think to date has been, the most rewarding part for you?
I would say just the fact of like Topher and I building this for ourselves. I mean, we've always, he's had some other companies in the past, but I've always worked for other companies. And so, I've always pride myself to be a really hard worker and really, figure out how to grow the business, how to drive it forward. And it's just different when you're doing it for yourself.
Yep.
There's a different level of pride involved. There's different ways of looking at it. You have to be cognizant of your work-life balance because they can take over your life. And I have a 14-month-old kid and like spending time with the family and all that stuff. So that's the tougher part. But it is just so rewarding to see something that like an idea that you have come to life, see it work successfully, even see the ones that fail and see why. Because I'm a big believer that like all these failures are just lessons that you have to learn, right? Like it's never had something go where like wrong that happened completely wrong and they go, oh, that's just bad luck or you know it was a bad client because of this. Like there's always a reason why it happened and there's a diagnosis that can happen and lessons to be learned. And I feel like you look for those lessons a lot more when it's your company versus if it's someone else's company, you chalk it up to bad luck or oh, I'll get the next one or whatever. But you don't always do the autopsy at that point. And that's pretty much what been one of my favorite things is really deconstructing of why something did work, why something didn't work. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out this the best way possible so we can get our agents, our recruiters, to be able to do this as well. And so the more times we can fail, the more ways we can fail, the more experience we can give to them so they don't have to go through that as well. And so that's I think just so exciting where you can, look at that mindset to go, hey, celebrate the wins because they're amazing, but also like really, really enjoy the losses because those are really, really good lessons that since we're building this company for the long term, that we don't have to keep making over and over again, and that our agents don't have to keep making over again. And so I think that's been my most rewarding part up to date.
Interesting. Again, I think it's an interesting way to look at it, whereas like you're actually taking pride in the losses as opposed to, getting beat up over them or putting your head down over them.
Yeah.
Because as you say, that's instrumental to moving forward and yeah, not making the same mistakes twice.
Yeah.
100%.
And you're going to make them twice sometimes. I mean, I'm not going to sit here
Yeah,
and say I made the same mistake twice. But you learn from them for sure. And if you don't look at it from that perspective, this is not an industry that you will last in, right? It is one that you get beat down a lot. And if you don't have the wherewithal to say, hey, these are lessons, you're probably going to be looking for a different job soon, right? It's like not everybody has thick enough skin to really make it. Most people quit. That's why a lot of recruiters take shortcuts, like we talked about, because it is hard to do this thing right. But when you get it right and you get that right hire for that client that really has that competitive advantage and really transforms their company, that's a really cool thing to see from the outside. And it's something that you don't ever get working at an internal company. You always see it there, but like we can influence so many different companies and give them better competitive advantages. And that to me is one of the most rewarding things to see from the outside perspective also.
I love it. I love it. Now, Jordan, just coming to a close here. Thank you so, so much for
For your time.
coming on, my friend, sharing your insights, all your experiences. It's been super valuable. Just before we go, where can people find yourself? Where can people find Jombine?
Yeah, so Jordan Arp, I'm on LinkedIn for sure. Jombine.com, that's, it's like combine with a J, Jombine, .com. That's our website. Really great information there to check out also. And, those are the two main spots to see what we do. But, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always interested to chat with other people and, try to provide value as much as possible, even if we're not officially going to work together. Because I'm a big believer that whatever else I can help give, it will come back to me as well. But really, I just like to see other people succeed also. So drop me a line, we can have a chat, and maybe I can provide you some value.
I love it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thanks, Alan.